Hey y'all, so now we're going to talk about type. Okay, so I just have, we're just starting off with this project, kind of where we left off. Alright, so now I'm going to show you how to add 2D type, and then we'll talk about how to work with 3D type. So I'm going to head over here to I'm just in the building a basic scene, and I'm going to head on over to adding text. Okay, so text is pretty easy. We just use an entity, and we can use the text attribute, position, scale, and then there's also the text component. Okay, so here's the actual text component again. So it's an entity, and you just do the text value here. Okay, so we'll just kind of mix in a couple of options. So let's work with just this starter code right here to begin with. And I'm going to put it at the bottom of my scene. Okay. Hi. And let's get a cute color. Go with like a blue. All right. Okay, great. So here's our type. Okay, and I'm going to open up the inspector. So I'm going to do Control Alt I, and I'll look for this type entity. Has a little A there, and maybe we can make it a little bigger. Let's try like 5. And the Z doesn't matter because it's just always going to be flat for this. Okay, and we can mess with the alignment, left, right, center, all those good things. So center, will put it right at the center point of this little movement icon. So maybe we can kind of put this in the middle of our project here. Okay, obviously your color. And then there's a couple different ways that we can mix in a font, and so I'll show you how to do that. But you have your letter spacing here, and line height if you have multiple lines. Let's see, what else do we got here? Here's your value, which is obviously like what you're going to type, so you can change that. Wrap count, width, wrap pixels. So these are all things that will help you with the size. I don't know what this one does. I'm just kind of messing around. Okay, so I figured something else out about this inspector that I wanted to demo to you really quick. You can actually, so see this here? You can copy the HTML entity to your clipboard. So the entire entity here, if I just hit this, it's going to copy it to my clipboard, and then when I go back here, I should have that entire entity. So check it out. It's pretty much the same thing. Here's my color, but all the stuff that I added in there, right? Check it out. Here it is. It's all done. So let me show you how to get that again. So you just go to, and I have 2 now. So I have one that I've fixed and then one that was original. So we just do Control Alt I, and then again, just click what you want to manipulate, change it. You know, this is a really lovely visual way to see what all these things can do. You know, for example, you can see like, oh, maybe I kind of want to work with the pink color, so you can try out different things visually. And then all you do is you just hit, you don't want to only hit text, right? Because that would only just be for that text attribute. You want to probably grab it for the entire thing, especially if you've messed with position. But, you know, if you've only messed with the text, we can copy this, and then what we would get from just that text is just this this text component. So it's just this value. Otherwise, it brings like the entire entity, and then you'll also get like your positioning and everything with it. So just to reiterate that one more time, Control-Alt-I. When you manipulate something, this up here is just the entire entity, right? So like it comes with like a entity. And then these down here are actually like the attributes inside of the entity. So if you've only changed one attribute, you can just grab this. If you've changed the entire thing, its position, etc., you probably want to grab the entire entity. Okay, so that's type. You know, you can position it, you can rotate it. So, you know, for instance, if you want it to rotate, I'll grab this. You know, we can very well do that. Cute. Okay, and then I'll grab this whole entity here, go back here. I'll get rid of these two because that's just kind of what I needed to get started. And then this is going to be all those changes that I had in there. Okay, cool. So there's my type. You can add an animation, you know, all that good stuff that we've already learned. So again, this doesn't come with any 3D capacity. There is a way you can do 3D type. Really the only other thing that we'll demo here is just how to do a different type of font. So again, I'm just here in the building a basic scene type. If we go into this text component, like I've opened here, this will show you how you can actually work with different types of fonts. Okay, so font to render text, A-frame stock fonts are just lower here. So here's all the fonts that we can use. Okay, and so we can mix in the font with a different one of these fonts here. Okay, so different fonts can be specified using the font and font image properties. So what we can do is we would just say font, the type of font, value via stock font names. Let's see here. Okay, so I think these just come already downloaded into A-frame itself. So if we click here, oh, I guess it just downloads it. I don't really want that. Let's just try to mix in this font and then the names here. So I believe that these are the fonts that are already loaded in with A-frame. So let's try that, and we'll put that inside the text attribute. So value, all right, we'll throw this. Do we have font already? Let's see, color, align, center, wrap, rotation. Okay, we don't have a font, so let's put that at the end here. Do semicolon, and then the font, and then we'll close that out with, okay, so that should give us a different font, maybe. Okay, let's try it with the inspector. So I'm going to do the Control-Alt-I. And I'm going to go down to the font. And I'm wondering if I put in one of these. Let's try Deja Vu. If I throw one of these in here. Okay, so now that I've been able to change this, this is probably an easier way to do this than the way I was trying to do it. Let's just see. EXO semi-bold. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, cute. So again, if we grab the text here, grab this, go back here, all I would have to do is just this whole text attribute, right? This whole thing here. Delete this in pieces. I'm just going to put that, re-put that inside my entity here. Okay, so then I should be able to have that font. I'm not sure why that didn't work the first time I did it, but that's okay. And now I broke everything, which is, you know, what I like to do. Let's see, what am I missing here? Oh, what I'm missing. Okay, I'm a dum-dum. We want to leave all this stuff. So that's what I did wrong. I put font. Okay, font is not supposed to go there. We want to put it, see these things black, these are different attributes, right? These are different attributes, they're separate from the text. So I only want to get rid of the text value, okay? Not get rid of, I just want to replace it with like my updates that I just made. So great, so then I have the font, that's what I did wrong, because font is part of text. And here, I'll put this on another line so we could see it. And these are all the different things I'm using, so all the different attributes that I'm using inside of this one entity. Okay, so let's refresh. Okay, cool. So now I have a custom font. And then any of the fonts that we want to use from here, again, you should be able at this point, now that we have done this correctly, to just switch out that font value here. So that was XO2 bold. This is Kelson Sans. All right, so a little bit different font there. So yeah, so you can mix any of these into your type attribute, your font attribute. Cool. Okay, so some slight differences. And then you can obviously adjust the size, et cetera, et cetera. But that kind of ends, you know, what we're doing with the type. There are a bunch of ways that we can work with this, like, you know, through repetition. So for example, it's pretty easy in your inspector to duplicate something. So if I just click on this, you can just duplicate it like so. Okay, and then maybe we want to just kind of move it around a bit, right? So, and then maybe we can kind of have it just be like a slightly different color. Okay, and then we would just copy this and then paste it underneath this one. So this would be the entire entity. So, you know, you could very well work with some type of dimensionality there, just through like that repetition. And obviously if you are more careful about where you place it, you know, maybe they're just only like a pixel or two away from each other, you can really fake some 3D effects. And then again, with your animations, etc., I'll leave it to y'all to pull that in. You could do color animations, all that good stuff. Okay. All right, now we're going to talk about how to work with 3D type. So I'm just going to be working with our general A-frame demo page, which is here, where I just did the flat type. And now I'm going to show you how to work with 3D. So we're going to be using this Vaporwave as by Ada Rose Edwards as an example, and I'm going to show you how we can kind of use this as a reference and then how we can modify it. So we're just going to go through this code, grab some stuff from the code, and add it into our project. And I'll make sure that you have this link as well. Okay, so we're going to go into index, and we're just going to kind of grab the couple things that we need from here. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at this assets page, all right, or this assets entity. And the things that we want to grab from here are going to be this image, because that's going to be the actual texture for our like kind of chrome looking situation. We're not going to worry about these two because these are going to be, those I believe are for something else, but one of the things that we could do, Like I'm pretty sure this is for the, here, let me just show you here. Pretty sure that image is this floor. And then I think there's another image that's on this here. But we can totally use these and we can sort of swap them out if we want. And you can also add in any of your own images. So for instance, if we take a look at some of these URLs, we can probably just look at them in the browser. Let's see if we'll be able to do that. Yeah, okay, so that's going to be the one for, and that's how you can find out what it's referring to. So that's going to be for the floor. So if you're into that, we can use that. That's a perfectly repeating image. And you can also make your own images, right? You can download this image, recolor it, or use it as a template. Let's take a look at some of the other ones. Oops, where am I? What's happening? Great. What's this one about? Just grab a new tab. You come over here. See what's up with this one. Okay, so that is probably for, actually, I'm not sure what that's for. Well, we can use it. Let's try it. And then I know this one is going to be for, this is the one that we are actually going to be using for the type itself. Yeah, okay, so this is sort of like how you make a Chrome looking thing. So again, you can download this, save image as, and edit this whatever color you want. You know, for example, you can download this. Let's name it as Chrome. And you can open it, show in Finder, open it, and then we can, just using the preview, we can just be kind of changing its color. And then also, you know, we can do a lot of stuff with lighting. So then you could save this, you could upload it to your assets, and you can link it in just like you're linking in this CDN. So whichever way you want to do that, but that's how you can like edit those things. Obviously, you can also bring them into Photoshop, etc. So just some options for you there. Okay, so now that we kind of have an idea of what these images are, and then this is probably going to be the image for the sky, right? So let's grab this one. I'm assuming that's the image that this designer is using for the sky. Yep. Okay, so that's the horizon there. So lots of options for you there. And this is all open source stuff, so feel free, you know, to use this. Got some nice lighting effects here. Okay, so, and then what we have here is these are our fonts. Okay, so these are JSON files that are leading to specific fonts. And it looks like this designer just uploaded them to the CDN. But if you have any questions about how to upload your own custom fonts, just ask, and I can also show you how to use Google Fonts with this. But for the time being, we're just going to grab all this stuff, all of the assets from this project, because we're gonna use them. All right, so I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go to my glitch page, and right at the top of scene, I've seen twice. That's wrong. I don't want scene twice. I want one scene. I just break everything. Okay, so up at the top of scene, I'm going to just put all these assets, okay? And you can link in any assets that you want. Again, we can just leave these in here in case you do want to use sky. I'm probably not going to use sky. But I can show you how you can sort of recycle these images. And then one other thing that I want to highlight is you can give these asset items and the image assets, you can give them IDs and then actually call them by their IDs. So this is sort of like using a variable. So what we would call is we would just call the ID of pink within our entity, and then it'll bring in this whole image itself. So I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this project, and what we want to look at is let's grab this this entity here, okay? And this entity is going to be our type entity. So we're going to grab all of this, and we're going to just go over it. So I'm going to grab this whole thing, this A entity, okay? And I'm going to put this at the top here, maybe right before, let's leave our environment alone. And I think I'm going to put it like right underneath the sky. Okay, so let's put this here. And just leave myself some comments. All right, so I'm going to take this whole entity and we're going to change this entire thing. But I am just going to kind of go over everything that's already in here. Okay, so obviously the rotation, the position, the text geometry is going to be value, is going to be the value, okay? So we want to do, I don't know. Actually, you know what, I'm working on a reformatted show that got canceled, and it's called Jurassic Warp. Did I spell Jurassic? Sure, Warp. Allie, does Jurassic have one R or two R's? Jurassic, one R. 1 R, thank you. All right, Jurassic Warp. So that's going to be my value. And then I like to put these on other lines too, just so I can see that these are all different properties and values, okay? So these are all different things that we can do with the component called text geometry. And components are really helpful because they're kind of like additional HTML and attributes that individuals have made. So we can find a lot of information about the 3D text. If we head over here, building a basic scene, if we head down to adding text, there's a couple links about how to work with 3D text in here. Let's see, adding text, let's see, text component, maybe not. So here, let's just look up text geometry A-frame. Okay, so here's the text component. All right, so here are all the things that you can do with a text component using different fonts. So this sort of explains everything to you. But we're pretty much going to go over this, but if you need a place, your sort of one-stop shop for this, this is where you would find all that information. And again, I'll make sure that everything that you need to achieve what we're doing here is linked in your YouTube videos and in your worksheet. All right, so let's take a look at this. And I'm going to use the inspector here. And once this loads, okay, so I'm just moving around. So here's our type. Here's our 3D type. Looks pretty good. We'll go over everything, but we're going to go over it in the inspector itself. Okay, so first let's see. Okay, so this one is going to be the That's my high one. Okay, this is the 3D one. So I'm gonna just move, and I will be just kind of moving this. Okay, great. So what I can do is for the, when I move this, right, so because I want to be able to see it when I'm opening the camera, we can just copy, but there's some other things that we might want to take a look at first. So obviously our position, our rotation, and then we have a bunch of other stuff that we can do with this. So I highlight this again. Oh wait, where is it? There we go. Great, okay. So we have our color, right? We can kind of change the color a bit. So even though it has that pink image wrapped around it, we can change the color, any color we might want, okay? And then, y'all know me, I kind of like to just click around and see what happens a bit. So let's kind of get a little closer here. So depth test, okay. I'm not really sure if that adds to anything. Depth right, definitely looks better with depth right. Displacement bias, so I'm not sure if we'll notice any real changes here. Let's try like 10, see what happens. Yeah, I'm not noticing any real change, so we'll just put it back. Displacement map. We can add one of those if we want, but we don't really need to. Displacement scale, maybe we'll just sort of leave those alone. Here's our dithering. That's just about like how it's blending. You don't have to worry about that too much. Emissive means that it is actually going to be the way that it is like making its own light and collecting light. So we can change this color as well. So if we give it more white value, right, more light value, it's going to give more light itself. And the darker the value, the less light it'll give. So that you can also have emissive be kind of a color as well. And that'll give you some interesting effects. I think that looks kind of cool. All right, and then we could do intensity for that. So the emissive intensity, you can change or lower. So I'll let y'all kind of mess with that. You could also do flat shading. So flat shading, depending on how you're doing it, we can talk a little bit more about flat shading maybe in a subsequent tutorial, but flat shading will allow, you could do toon shading, you could do flat shading. Flat shading works really well with shadows. Fog, because I'm not sure what that does. Should sort of produce fog. We don't have to worry about that. Metaliness, you'll notice some changes here. So I think the highest you can go there is 1. If we go lower, it'll have like less reflection on it. So that might be something that you want to mess with. So now it kind of looks like gooey, a little goopy. So I don't know, there's something from there. I'm kind of into the metaliness myself. And then like we can also kind of we can give it the metaliness more texture on the X and the Y if we wanted to. But I don't know, I'm not really seeing much of a change here, so let's not explode the computer. Okay, so your normals, those are also going to have to deal with like how your how the shape is actually rendering out. I wouldn't so much worry about that. Roughness will more roughness, it'll have more of like a metally texture. Less roughness, it'll be like a little smoother. So for instance, you know, you may want to kind of mess with your color if you do that, right? Maybe we want like a green, you know? So there's lots and lots and lots of options for you. But the way that I would really encourage you to think about this and go through it is to just sort of go through all these options. and kind of keep messing with it until it looks the way you want it to look. And because there's so many different options. Okay, so then we have this, we have a bunch of different shaders. So here's your flat shader. It'll shade everything flat. Standard. SDF is sort of like this, oh, maybe I lied. Thought it was the standard shader. Is it MS? MSDF is sort of like the standard shader. Sky shader. You know, so there's a bunch of different shaders. Gradient shader. You know, and then you can kind of mess with your top color. But I might just go back to that standard shader. Okay, and then this is the actual image material that's being wrapped, that's sort of creating this look. But we can also try, we can set it to be transparent. So lots of different things. And then obviously, okay, so for the text geometry itself, we have the bevel enabled in our code. You can change the bevel size. Okay, so that has a bevel of 1. And then we can also change so that's obviously going to be like kind of crazy. Maybe we try like 0.6. A little bit bigger. Oh, that's wild. I think it was at 0.5, right? Let's try like 0.5. Or was it 0.5? Okay, let's try that. Yeah, okay, so that increases the bevel size. You can also increase the bevel thickness itself. My computer tends to run really slow when I do kind of mess with these values, just an FYI. So that's my bevel thickness. Your curve segments is just, again, sort of like how it actually renders the type out. We can control the height, right? So we can actually make it like taller, thicker. I'm gonna put this bevel size a little bit smaller just so we can see what it says. Ooh, very nice. Style, normal. Here's your italics. If the font has italics, I don't know if this can render. Your value obviously is just going to be what it says. So once you're kind of done messing with this, okay, based off of like what we've put in there, these are literally all the options that you get for working with this component. Again, it's this component. Here's a list of all the options that you're going to get when you work with those public variables. So if this is how you want your type rendered out, right? All you have to do is just copy this whole entity. So again, up here, this thing, just click on this, go back to your page, and then I'm gonna find that entity. So this is my entity here, okay? I'm just gonna get rid of this one. And so I use that to just kind of like start mine. And then I just use the inspector to do my own version. So I'm just going to organize this a little better. Put these on individual lines just so I can see what I'm doing. All right, there's my font. Let's put these on different lines here. And I just like to put all the attributes and the properties and values for individual attributes on separate lines. So again, this is the value, this is the attribute. So I just put a new line after every semicolon in here. All right, so just kind of keeping this a little more organized. And then we are going to just swap out some of the images. Okay, and when you have stuff that looks like this, just don't worry about it. That means that maybe we kind of messed with this, or maybe one of these things needs it, but we didn't explicitly put a value in. So don't worry so much about that. We can always go back and like try to put a value in there. Okay, so, and then there's the end of our entity. So if we head back here, Let's refresh. All right, check it out. So we're gonna mess with the lighting in a minute so we can kind of make this look a little snazzier. And then maybe we'll also sort of add an animation on there as well. Okay, so let's switch back here and let's just try some additional options. So we have a couple fonts. Okay, so we have drawing font, XO font, and XO italic font. So if right now we're using, if we go to font, we're using this font here, all right, which is the CDN for the script font, but we also have this other font. So I believe, is this the same CDN for, yeah, okay, so that's the same CDN. You could also get rid of this CDN and you can actually use this ID here because this is sort of like, in this assets, this is sort of like how we do variables. So this drawing font will just kind of carry around this value with it. So let's get rid of this. And let's just ensure that that's going to validate as the same thing. Yeah, looks good. Okay, but we can also try this other font, right? So we can do this XO font. Again, this is sort of like a variable. It'll carry around this image with it. So let's put in, where was I? Font friend. Here we go. Try this other font. And we definitely need our hashtag because it's an ID. All right, so we have a slightly different font. Okay, and you may want to go back in and kind of like mess with this. Maybe, you know, if you're into this dark lighting, maybe you want to add more emissiveness, right? It looked really light in the, when I was looking at it in the viewer. So emissive intensity, maybe let's do like 2. I don't know, that might, maybe that'll break everything. Yeah, okay, so now it's a little brighter, but then, you know, we're sort of losing like a little bit of depth. But there's a lot of ways that we can work on that. Okay, so another thing that I want us to think about is for the material, we are using, where is my metaliness spherical map? Oh, actually, you know what? Here's where we have a little issue. This spherical map, let's check out this example again. That's actually where we're going to put that image, okay? And I think that's why it didn't work because, like, so maybe just watch out for that when you're messing with it in the actual web viewer. It looks like they want you to manually add this, so it probably just didn't come straight through. So if we add our pink back, I think it'll give us more of that sort of metal-y look. Yeah, and I increased the emissiveness too, so maybe let's just put that back down to 1. Yeah, okay, so we got that image on there now. And let's go back to our drawing font. I kind of like the way that looked better. We'll go back to that drawing font. Font. Here we go. Cute. Okay.